Coming up on Global Business, China's financial regulators are participants at the 2023 Lu Jiazui Forum in Shanghai, reiterate need for concrete efforts to prevent financial risks. The Eurozone has slipped into a technical recession, with the region's economy contracting by 0.1% for a second consecutive quarter. On the occasion of World Oceans Day, we examine how countries around the world, including China, are working to protect our planet's vast waters. From CGTN headquarters in Beijing, this is Global Business. I'm Michelle Vandenberg. President Xi Jinping has affirmed the progress of Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. During his inspection tour in the region on Thursday, Xi urged Inner Mongolia to adhere to green development and accelerate industrial structural optimization, actively developing its characteristic industries. Wang Tianhui has more.
After listening to work reports presented by Inner Mongolia's party and government officials, President Xi said the autonomous region is a crucial energy and strategic resources hub, an agricultural and livestock production stronghold, and a key foothold for China's northward opening up. He emphasized the need for a modern industrial system reflecting Inner Mongolia's unique advantages. Xi advocated for better energy industry practices and deeper processing of energy resources, as well as for strategic resource protection, high-quality utilization, and standardized management. Emphasizing the agricultural and pastoral advantages, the president outlined strategies involving land, technology, seed resources, water, and grass, promoting a transformation to ecological agriculture and livestock. He urged efforts to establish a green organic brand and deprocessing of agricultural and livestock products, promoting the integrated development of primary, secondary, and tertiary industries. Xi encouraged active participation in the Belt and Road Initiative and the China-Mongolia-Russia Economic Corridor, thereby improving the level of openness and playing a larger role in the domestic and international dual circulation. On the environmental front, Xi underscored the importance of ecological security in Inner Mongolia and the need to integrate conservation efforts involving mountains, rivers, forests, fields, lakes, and deserts. He emphasized on advancing the green beating back the sand momentum, with a focus on large-scale sand control and desertification prevention in key areas. Xi stressed the goal of shared prosperity for all, noting that the most challenging tasks lie in the border ethnic regions. He insisted on a people-centered approach, focusing on improving livelihoods and promoting employment. He underlined the need to implement policies to help disadvantaged groups such as zero-employment households, the disabled individuals, and to bolster the social security system, as well as support for industries such as elderly care. President Xi also reaffirmed the commitment to safety production, urging a system of responsibility to prevent major safety accidents, thereby ensuring the safety of the people's lives and property. Wang Tianhui, CGTN.
The 2023 Lu Jiazui Forum commenced in Shanghai on Thursday. China's financial watchdog and government officials shared their thoughts on financial supervision during global economic uncertainties. Chen Tong takes a closer look.
At the opening ceremony held at the Shanghai Tower this morning, delegates from China's financial watchdog have all been mentioning one thing: preventing financial risks. Li Yunze, director of China's newly established National Financial Regulatory Commission, says China is determined to do everything it can at an early stage.
We will hedge the financial risks in a more active way. We will insist on early detection, early warning, and early handling to ease the risks as soon as possible. We will also improve the use of digital and intelligent technology to regulate the financial industry.
China's securities watchdog also mentioned the protection of individual investors. Yi Huiman, chairman of the China Securities Regulatory Commission, says it will regulate the market to make the performance of listed companies transparent.
The capital market is very sensitive to the macroeconomy, industrial policies, and companies' performances. The performance of the capital market is affected by economic fundamentals, policies, capital flow, and market sentiment. The Securities Regulatory Commission will respect the market and follow market principles to protect the rights of the individual investors.
As part of the measures to strengthen financial supervision and protection, Shanghai has also announced the acceleration of its plans to establish itself as a global reinsurance center. Reinsurance refers to insurance for insurance companies. Such arrangements give a dual protection to hedge possible financial risks. It has been the 14th Lujiazui Forum since its first edition in 2008. Topics have ranged from financial opening up to global financial cooperation, as Shanghai's reputation has grown to a global financial center. And how to further boost the economic recovery while hedging financial risks will be a key topic during the two-day event. Chen Tong, CGTN, Shanghai.
Meanwhile, officials from the People's Bank of China, China's central bank, shared their insights on China's green finance development and foreign exchange market at the forum. Have a listen.
Real
loans provided by People's Bank of China to financial institutions will be collected when they expire. Financial institutions provide carbon reduction loans to companies at their own risk. Such a supportive policy is appropriate and meets the market principle. By the end of April this year, the PBOC's carbon reduction support tool helped financial institutions to issue loans amounting to 670 billion yuan and cut over 150 million tons of carbon emissions.
取得了比较好的成效。
向前看，我国的外汇市场的平稳运气仍然具备良好基础。
Looking ahead, China's foreign exchange market will continue to exhibit a healthy foundation for sustainable growth. China's economy has maintained a strong growth trajectory, and the same will provide support for the renminbi exchange rate. On the other hand, the U.S. economy is at risk of entering a mild recession. It may also become more challenging for the U.S. dollar to keep its strong position, as the Federal Reserve's rate hikes are expected to come to an end in the near future. And this could dilute the spillover effect of the greenback on global markets and economies.
The Lu Jiazui Forum plenary session today also focused on the enhancement of Shanghai's free trade zone and high-level financial reform. Our reporter Zhang Shixuan has more from the session.
The afternoon session heard speeches from the heads of international financial authorities and institutions, as well as from professional economists. All spoke highly of the development of the financial services within the free trade zone.
We deepened our ties with China. We had existing relationships with sovereign wealth funds and insurance companies, and we deepened those ties and relationships. We had a very positive experience here in the QDLP program. It's been very successful for us. We have the highest, number one, 40% market share.
The developments in the zone have also enhanced international cooperation.
From its negative list management model to free trade account systems, scrapping of foreign ownership limits on securities and fund management firms, to the delivery of bond futures, Shanghai's free trade zone has been taking important steps to liberalize international markets. And in the last decade alone, China's economy has doubled in size, and trade with the United Kingdom has grown by 60%.
This year marks the 10th anniversary of the establishment of the China-Shanghai Pilot Free Trade Zone, the first of its kind in the country. Since then, it has become a leader in the country's reform and opening up, not only in the trade sector, but also in the financial field, as is being demonstrated and highlighted at this Lu Jiazui Forum. The dense gathering of foreign investment, trade, and industrial innovations has made the area a natural environment for innovative financial services, especially cross-border ones. For the past decade, the financial market has been exploring new possibilities for new services, bonds, cash pools, and insurance. These achievements have laid solid foundation for future progress. But the question now is, for the upcoming decade, how will they become part of the widely applied financial services in the area and even outside the free trade zone?
To promote the construction of Shanghai's International Financial Center, the primary effort should be on the main products in the capital market, such as stocks, bonds, foreign currency, credit loans, and payments. Increasing the market's opening requires improving the degree of free use of the renminbi, and the level of convertibility of the RMB. That means we have to further reform the foreign currency management mechanism. But that doesn't mean 100% free use or convertibility. So in doing this we need to be able to handle problems such as international balances, and the mechanism by which the exchange rate is set.
Zhou stressed in his speech the fact that China now has close connections with the Belt and Road countries, which have companies with promising development prospects but no way to make IPO listings. He said the further liberalization of renminbi use could also help high-quality foreign companies listing Shanghai by using China depository receipts. Other delegates emphasized different aspects of China's liberalization and how they could also help the host country. Data from the People's Bank of China shows that in March this year, the 96 banks in Shanghai reporting cross-border renminbi settlements handled a trade volume worth more than 2 trillion yuan. Zhang Shixuan, ICS for CGTN, Shanghai.
Now moving on to some other business headlines we're tracking at this hour. China's auto market saw a 29% year-on-year growth in May, with over 1.7 million passenger cars sold and new energy vehicles accounting for almost a third of total sales. Data from China Passenger Vehicle Association shows the country's auto market maintained steady growth in first 5 months of the year. Japan's GDP growth for January to March was revised on Thursday to an annualized rate of 2.7%, higher than the initial estimate of 1.6%. Domestic spending and investments helped offset the impact of slowing global demand. Now, India's central bank kept its benchmark repurchase rate at 6.5% on Thursday, citing lower inflation but warning of a precarious global economic outlook. Indian central bank governor said deadline inflation would remain above target and is set to rise to 5.1% in the 2023 to 24 financial year. You're watching Global Business, still to come. The Eurozone has dipped into a technical recession, with the region's economy contracting by 0.1% for a second consecutive quarter.
.360-degree profiles of industry movers and shakers, tech mavericks, and policymakers. We drill down on their success. We ask how they set strategy and how they navigate in an increasingly competitive market. Real talk, real business. Join the conversation. Biz Talk, only on CGTN.
On Thursday, the EU Statistics Agency released figures confirming that the Eurozone has slipped into a technical recession, with the region's economy contracting by 0.1% for a second consecutive quarter. The news follows a difficult year in which rising energy prices induced by the Ukraine crisis triggered inflation. Concerns have been raised about previously optimistic forecasts for the entirety of 2023. Now, for more on that, let's turn to our correspondent Alex Cadier in Brussels for more on the European economy. Hi there, Alex. So the recent negative growth of European GDP raises concerns about a potential recession. Can you shed more light on whether this is a temporary dip or indicative of a longer trend?
Well, it's certainly not good news in the short term. What's interesting about the numbers we saw today, that 0.1% negative growth for the first quarter of this year, but also a revision by Eurostat, the European Union Statistics Authority, of the last quarter of 2022. That is following revisions by Germany and Ireland, which took place in the last few weeks. We saw Germany slipping into a technical recession as well, and therefore tipping the Eurozone, I should say, into that recession as well. Now, it's still happens in the broader context of the spring forecast, which the European Commission published a couple of weeks ago. That actually revised growth up for the year, up to 1% growth for 2023 and 1.7% growth predicted for 2024. Now, these numbers don't necessarily say that these forecasts are off, don't necessarily will not particularly make people worried yet about whether or not those forecasts can be reached, but certainly the next quarter will be crucial. If the first two quarters of 2023 show negative growth, then there will be a real need for that trend to be bucked and changed for the second 2 quarters. So at the moment it is not a huge amount of concern. This was to be expected. There was always going to be a bit of a dip in GDP, as you said, recovering from the energy crisis brought on by Russia's invasion of Ukraine, or what the European Union would call Russia's energy blackmail over the last few months. That has had a really serious impact on European economies. So at the moment, a temporary worrying trend, but some countries in the EU going strong. Poland has 3.8% growth in the first quarter of 2023. Portugal just behind at 1.6%. Much more concerning for Ireland, who revised their negative growth again, so still trailing the rest of the bloc. So not all doom and gloom. Those spring forecasts still on track for now. Crucially, the question is looking very closely at the next quarter to see if this trend continues.
Yeah, definitely. Now, Alex, also we've witnessed protests across Europe regarding the cost of living. Has this had any direct impact on the current GDP figures?
Well, it's difficult to measure exactly how that industrial action, the strikes that we've seen, the protests that we've seen, will have a direct impact on GDP, on economic growth, on economic activity. We can look at some circumstantial factors, some smaller factors to look at if there's a correlation. Looking at 3 countries in particular in which we've had industrial action and large-scale strikes. Spain and France have had the biggest in Europe in 2022. Belgium, where I am, of course, also had quite serious industrial action. And those 3 countries still have maintained growth, and in the case of France, more growth than expected. Now, it's slow growth. It's not the kind of very fast, very strong growth we've seen from China, from the United States, but it's still not dipping into negative growth. So at least on the GDP figures, it doesn't seem that industrial action, those protests will have brought economic activity to a slowdown or at least to negative growth. Another factor to look at, France in particular had some of the most widespread protesting because of that pension reform law that we've been covering from Paris and elsewhere in the last few months. Well, France has also seen 2 mega factories being opened in the last month, one creating batteries, one creating chips. So that does not seem to indicate a particular slowdown in economic activity, or at least investor fears for France. So 7 billion euros worth of investment in one of those factories would indicate that France still has an appeal. So at the moment, it would seem, on the surface at least, that workers expressing their discontent publicly and going out on these protests has not necessarily had a negative impact on economic performance yet.
Great. Thanks very much for the great report, Alex Cadier, for us in Brussels. Now, despite German firms' waning confidence levels in China compared to pre-pandemic times, a significant proportion of them remain committed to maintaining investment in the country. A survey of 288 German firms indicates that 55% of them plan to continue investing in China over the next 2 years, representing a 4% growth over last year. In fact, over 60% of these companies view investment as key to remain competitive in the Chinese market. Besides, many German firms are also looking to collaborate with China on decarbonization, smart manufacturing, and mobility, with 60% of them aiming to strengthen such partnerships. The largest Chinese products fair in Germany came to a close on Wednesday in Essen, drawing over 20,000 visitors from across the globe. The event was particularly meaningful for Chinese manufacturers who were able to showcase their products in person for the first time since the easing of COVID-19 restrictions. CGTN's Peter Oliver attended the fair to find out what's new.
More than 500 Chinese suppliers show off over 20,000 products, including household goods, electronics, clothing and furniture. China's consumer manufacturers are back meeting face-to-face with one of their largest markets after several years away because of the pandemic. Among them is electronic bike and scooter manufacturer Rulind, based out of Shenzhen. They told me that it is increasingly important to show that you have a product that takes environmental protection seriously.
Environmental protection is very important to our friends all over the world, so our products and all of the packaging that we use accords to strict international requirements. For example, we have strict inspections by the Consumer Standards Authority in Germany, and we also have to make sure that what we sell can be disposed of safely and sustainably when its life comes to an end. Our aim is to ensure that our products meet the standards and then bring an environmentally friendly product to everyone.
Batteries are most definitely included at this gathering of Chinese manufacturers. Another Shenzhen-based company, Best Technology Co. Limited, are banking on communal power banks being the future of mobile phone charging on the go. The idea is that you scan a code from the terminal, it gives you a charger to fit your device, which you rent. They're pitching these as the way to stop festival goers in Europe this summer from running out of juice, with one eye on the sustainability of the finite resources in batteries.
Our power banks are shared. This will reduce the purchase of power banks. If everyone owns their own, at some point that will just be sitting idle. That's a waste of resources. The number of power banks is very harmful to the earth. It can cause pollution, but we all need power. That's why we're promoting the shared power bank model.
Chinese manufacturers seeking to reduce their environmental impact has certainly struck a chord with German-based businesses scouting for new products.
We are living in 21st century, and I think the last 20 years, and we start to understand the importance of the environment-friendly products more, and that's important point also for the producers, for the sellers, how we can make it more environment-friendly step by step.
Many of the products making their way from China to Europe come here to Duisburg, and the continent's largest inland container port. The harbour has seen a 187% year-on-year increase in goods coming through its terminals for the first 3 months of this year. That is as China's export economy springs back into action following COVID slowdowns. This is crucial for the German economy, which slipped into recession in the first part of this year. Trade between Berlin and Beijing was worth around $320 billion in 2022. Peter Oliver, CGTN, Germany.
You're watching Global Business, still to come. On the occasion of World Oceans Day, we examine how countries around the world, including China, are working to protect our planet's vast waters.
The world economy as we know it is about to change. Global business reports highlight emerging markets, developing countries, and dynamic sectors worldwide. We feature top analysts and newsmakers to provide perspectives on every facet of business. From an on-the-ground perspective, we provide you with balanced and objective assessments. Fast, sharp, and insightful. Global Business, only on CGTN.
Today marks World Oceans Day, celebrated on June 8th every year. The day aims to foster public interest in the protection of the ocean and sustainable management of its resources. This year's theme is Planet Ocean, Tides Are Changing. Various education campaigns on ocean protection were held across China. Chinese environment authorities said the country's ocean environment has improved. It also said in 2022, over 97% of the more than 1,300 sample areas met the first-class water quality standard. Oceans are the main source of protein for more than 1 billion people worldwide. United Nations estimates the marine industries will provide jobs for 40 million people by the end of this year. However, oceans have been suffering from plastic pollution. According to a report by United Nations Environment Program, about 11 million tons of plastic waste ends up in the oceans every year, accounting for 85% of all the marine litter. The annual economic loss caused by just 1 ton of marine plastic can amount to around $3,300 to $33,000 US. Ghana is trying to reverse the destruction caused to its marine life and oceans. The government has held its first National Blue Economy Summit recently to find ways of sustaining the country's ocean economy in order to protect livelihoods. Have a look.
Ghana's coastlines have been devastated by the side effects of economic expansion. Pollution and overfishing are responsible for the depletion of 1/3 of fish species here, according to the campaign group, the Environmental Justice Foundation, and fishermen are bearing the brunt.
For some years now, it's been difficult getting a good catch when we go fishing. So we engage in light fishing to help us get more fish, but that is also illegal in Ghana.
Marine experts estimate that bad fishing practices off the coast of West Africa cost the affected countries around $1 billion a year. That's why Ghana is taking a step to reverse the trend with its first National Blue Economy Summit held in Accra.
We have to prioritize sustainable management of our oceans. This means establishing and enforcing robust regulations to prevent overfishing and promote responsible fishing practices.
Delegates at this meeting are expected to come up with a roadmap to help shape interventions at the national level. Beyond the discussions at this summit, experts want the government to take urgent steps to address the challenges facing the ocean economy. They believe a quick action is crucial to protect and restore the oceans. In 2021, more than 17 million metric tons of plastic entered the world's ocean, making up 85% of marine litter. The volume of plastic pollution entering the ocean each year is expected to double or triple by 2040, according to figures from the UN.
We want to see strong regulations on plastic pollution so that our fisher folks, when they go on the ocean, catch less plastics than fishes, or no plastics at all. And we need to do more on land, inland, with enforcement, with regulations. All these have to come together because we can have the right policy directions and the right rules and regulations, but when we don't enforce these things, it will be business as usual.
We need to have a comprehensive blue economy policy that is interfaced with marine spatial planning in order that all the activities will play within a certain limit and range. Because if you allow for the free flow of oil exploration as we do now, you run into a challenge. We're talking about protected areas and all that, into a challenge where you may even affect coral reefs. You may affect the shoreline.
More than 3 million people in Ghana depend on fishing for their livelihoods. It is hoped that the government's intervention will help save their livelihood. Nabil Ahmed Rufai, CGTN, Accra, Ghana.
And that will do it for this edition of Global Business here on CGTN. I'm Michelle Vandenberg in Beijing. Thank you for watching. Bye for now.